Happy New Year, everybody. It's almost the end of the 2024 season and the end of 2024 as a whole, but there's one last celebration to bring the season out with a bang. Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans because that's who we are and that's who we care about.
Yeah, let's kick it off by thanking our Prestige Pass members. Let's thank Aaron Bort, 330T, Logan Lipper, Brian Hauser, Lil Mac 21, Miss Mandy, 1983, Jacob Fix, Damon Barnes, and Stephen Homack. So thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the content, exclusive content, members only live streams, and some tiers get some free stuff. All this and more. Click the link in the description.
So, Ryan, New Year's Eve, one of your favorite times of the year at Kings Island.
Mm-hmm.
What can guests expect if they've never been to Kings Island on New Year's Eve before?
Well, it's funny because I was looking at the season pass holder group just before we started recording here, and now we're getting to the point where it's like, I've never been to New Year's Eve. Like, is it worth it? So I think this episode will have like a lot of value to it to anybody who listens because um there are different people that look for different things for New Year's Eve. To me, I'm like not a big like drinker or anything like that. So I'm more along the lines of like ending the year with my friends and my family and stuff like that. So doing it at Kings Island, one of my favorite places, is certainly something that I hold very dear to me, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to do so. But the park is open till midnight. There is a firework display at midnight. It's usually a very, very good firework display. There's some special activities all day, and there's your normal Winterfest stuff too. So you can't go wrong with it.
No, and for those that are interested in rides, it's a big part of their Winterfest experience. Last chance to get in rides on the Racer, Mystic Timbers, your favorite flat rides, Flight of Fear. So there's that element of it too.
Yeah, and the cool part is that historically rides have closed at 10 o'clock. They're actually open until 11 this year, so that's actually trending in the right direction for once. Um, the theory going around, and I'm sure this could be worked around if they really wanted to, is that the rides technically lose their 2024 certification at midnight. 11:59:59. So come midnight, they're not certified by the state any longer. I'm sure they could get around that if they really wanted to, but I don't think it's necessary. Their goal, as it rightfully should be, is to draw everybody to International Street at 10 o'clock. That's where the celebration is. I mean, and one of the things you're going to see that takes up a lot of the time is they've got a DJ on the booth, or on the booth. They got a DJ booth on the bandstand, and it's spinning all the hits, and they've got all the Winterfest characters up there like dancing on stage and everything. That brings like a huge amount of energy to the park. It kind of reminds me of the first year of Carnival, to be honest with you. But
And also, yeah, go ahead.
no, it's like I said, it's a big celebration. It's got all the characters. What were you gonna say, Don?
Well, I was going to say it's also, for you, is it a little bit of different vibe? Christmas is over. So you've got those last few nights of Winterfest, and then the final night on New Year's Eve. Does it feel like a little bit different vibe than a normal Winterfest night?
Oh, 100%. So the for Winterfest, I never really think of it as like energy. I think of it as like imposed nostalgia. I think of it as like um the Christmas spirit. Magical is another good word for it, but it's never like a super high energy event, at least the way that I think about it, the way that I interpret Winterfest. This is different. I mean, this is a big celebration, and it gets everybody together. And I mean, a lot of my friend base and stuff, as probably with yours too, because you spend so much time at the park, just kind of revolves around the park. So many of my friends choose to spend their New Year's Eve at Kings Island, and you just get to see everybody and one last time. I think that one of the best parts, honestly, with all this, I mean, especially with Winterfest, is uh, growing up until, especially until recently. Um, you got the closing at the end of October, maybe first week of November, and then you've got that itch you can't scratch for like 6 months until the park opens again. I feel this is that's why, like, King's Dominion and Carowinds tried that year-round operations thing, which blew up in their faces. But I um I think that the best part of this is you go all the way to New Year's, and it's kind of like, well, I've been going to the park for like 8 months. Like, I don't really feel like going anymore. So you kind of get like burnt out a little bit, especially going as much as I do. And then by the time like April rolls around again, you your batteries are recharged, you're ready to be back. So I feel like the off season is a perfect amount of time nowadays, you know.
Yeah. Now, oftentimes when you think of New Year's Eve, you think of activities for adults and that, but it's a good night to bring the kids out too, isn't it?
Yeah, so here's I get a kick out of this, but a lot of adults hate this. This is our Noah, our friend of the show.
Mhm.
They give out, well, at least in the past, they've given out Happy New Year hats and noisemakers, and it's the most obnoxious thing ever. Because just, I mean, they give out hundreds, if not thousands, of them for free to everybody, and every kid's going around blowing them and stuff. It sounds like you're getting attacked by cicadas. And then the hats are kind of fun too. I got one of those hats. I should have worn that. I didn't think about it, but I got one of those hats somewhere around here. But that's something really nice that Kings Island does. In addition to that, well, here's a group of me and my friends. They've got a special. Here's me wearing the hat, actually. And then that's Aaron and my friend Alex and my friend Toad. But they got special like photo ops. Not a lot of them, but just enough where it's kind of like cool that you got to have that opportunity there. Um, but I tell you what, one of the things, and this is going to be interesting because it's going to be in a different location, but they did a balloon drop at like 10, I think. Maybe it was 9:30 in the past, in the Fest House, and that's always chaos. I always enjoyed watching that because it's a bunch of kids essentially rioting over these balloons. Then you hear balloons popping everywhere. Um, this year they're doing it in the Kings Island Theater. And I'm not exactly certain why, because I feel like the Fest House isn't really a big enough venue for this, let alone the theater that's capped at like, 6 or 800 people. I feel like the Fest House can do more. Um, I'm wondering if they want to close the Fest House at like 9. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little surprised when I saw that had been changed too from the Fest House to the Kings Island Theater. But I do like the idea that, if you are, parents, you've got some young children, you don't have to worry about finding a babysitter or anything like that. Just bring them out to the park with you. They're going to have a great time.
They really are, and it's so fun, and it really is a special night. Like, I've never had somebody be like, "I wish I had gone somewhere else. This is lame." Like, everybody I've always talked to has always really looked forward to this night and just really enjoyed it, and it's been something that's, become a tradition, shall we say. But I recommend it. I really do enjoy it. I love Winterfest. Honestly, on New Year's Eve, I typically don't watch, like, Toy Factory and, um yeah, stuff like that. Because I mean, we kind of discussed this on another show where, to me and to you, once Christmas passes, like, Christmas is over. So it's kind of fun to go to the park, but you don't really feel like watching elves or watching Santa or anything like that. But this definitely has like a different vibe to it. Like I said, the energy is incredible. The only thing I think of it is being akin to that first year of Carnival when it was a street party between shows at the end of the night, and when with the street party they would have like the spotlights going and stuff and the music was blaring, because people describe that as quote unquote Magic Kingdom style energy, and that was somebody outside of the company, that was just an observer. But with this, it's got that kind of energy. It's going to the place you love, closing out the year one last time, and then ringing in the new year just to see what's to come for, in this case, 2025.
And also, your last chance until Winterfest next year to get the holiday meatloaf burger. I thought
Yes,
that was the best. They had so many good food items at Winterfest, but that one to me, what was the best and something that, I'm already looking forward to the start of Winterfest next year just so, I can get that again. I think I like the fact that it's limited time only.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like the McRib. You got to come at this time of the year to get it. But there were, other items too. I thought the turkey ball
Hmm. I
was
heard it
really
was
good. Uh, just other things. The pork chop sandwich, was really good. You get that at the Wishbone Grill. So I mean, there was just so many good food items as well too. But again, that last chance to do some of your favorite things, and if you do, the shows are the reason you go. It's your last chance to see those shows. Your last chance to skate on the Royal Fountain. Last chance to watch the parade. So it's really especially for pass holders who frequented the park, it's just really a fun and memorable way, to cap off the 2024 season at Kings Island.
It sure is. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that there is the option for the buffet slash party up in the IR. I don't think I'm going to be attending that this year, but I have almost every other year. Now, I will say this: they have the very limited run holiday buffet, and I assume that it's going to be similar food and stuff. But I did want to kind of just talk about this a little bit. Um, the food up there, and I reported this pretty widely on KI Central, but for somehow they made it so it was like the best stuffing ever. They had just little bits of jalapeno in it that added this like kind of allure. I wish I had taken pictures of the food, but for some reason I didn't. But I did take a picture of this is the view you would get. And then people were saying like in the season pass group that they were charging for desserts, and I think the material said they were, but I guess they backpedaled on that because my dessert was free. Or is that thing? Um, go ahead with
I
your comment.
came across several people that said they were charged for the desserts. I came across several people that, said they were free.
Hmm.
I had other people that told me after their third round when they went up to get, some more food that they were told, that's enough, kind of things like that. So uh, just it's all over the map. Others said they, stayed up there for a couple hours and just continued to eat. So I mean, it's just depending, I guess, on who you're talking to and what day of the week it is. What the experience was for that so far.
Yeah, I can say that when I was up there, the service was impeccable. I was very impressed. Everyone was very nice, very helpful. Did a great job of clearing the dishes off the table and all sorts of little stuff like that that makes the experience. Um, This was the dessert that I opted for. This was a dark chocolate brownie that's garnished in
Yeah, looks good.
peppermints and then a straw looking thing. This was I've got a newfound appreciation of peppermint as of this holiday season, and this was phenomenal. I probably wouldn't have gotten dessert because I'm not. I mean, I was so full, but they came up and offered it. There's only like three or four choices, but this is what they made, and this was so good. I honestly think I've eaten in the IR probably about 10 times. This might have been my favorite meal up there overall.
What exactly did you find that on the menu? Because that's one thing that's kind of vague. And if you're somebody like me, a little bit of a picky eater, you want to know what you're paying for before you go up. But when it just says carving station, and that can mean a lot of different things.
Right. So, I mean, it might change every week for all I know, but my experience was they had a KI and probably a Caesar salad. They usually have that as the base. They had rolls. They had mashed potatoes, which were phenomenal. They had stuffing, which was phenomenal. They had don't sue us, please, Cook family. They had really good gravy. Um, they had some sort of warm pasta. It had mushrooms in it, so I was offended by that, but other than that, the pasta was amazing. Carving station or they had turkey. The turkey was very, very good. It had, like, all these seasonings and stuff on it. Um, and then it had, like they had a beef carving station too. I'm sure I missed some stuff, but those were the highlights that I went for personally. But this is like, I mean, god, that stuffing how do you make stuffing so good that that's the star of the show?
I
They did
know.
it. I mean, wow. So it's probably gonna be the same food, I imagine, for
On New Year's
New
Eve.
Year's Eve thing. So I think that's like, that's something to consider. As of this recording, that is not sold out yet. So it's gonna be hard to say by the time this drops what's gonna be going on with that. If you are not a season pass holder, then it's like $150. Actually, I got the price breakdown right here. So if you're not a season pass holder, $150. I would say that less than 1% of the people up there will be non-season pass holders. Pass holder is 135, and then to partially offset the additional $200 for your pass, the prestige pass holders are 130. So that saves you $5. You almost can't afford not to get prestige next year.
I was looking to do that this year. You had me convinced to, you know, join you up there this year for it. Tickets went on sale at 10 o'clock in the morning, so I go to log on, thinking it's going to go quick. Everyone says it sells out quick, and
Mhm.
historically it had. And it said product's not available.
Uh,
Tried again, kept trying and trying and trying. I would say I tried at least 30, 40 times in a 15 minute span.
mhm.
And then, I just walked away from it because I had other things I had to do. And then, you forget about it. And a few days later, I started thinking about it. And, all of a sudden, they didn't have me anymore. I was going to do it when I was, wasn't ready when I was ready to strike when they said it was going to be on sale at 10 a.m. So I just moved on and, just used that 130 bucks, 135 bucks for something else. Christmas
Yeah,
gifts.
it's I saw other people talking about um how they had trouble purchasing and stuff. And I wonder how many people walked from it. Because honestly, like I kind of knew what it was going to cost because it costs about the same every year. Actually, I remember when it was like $100, so it has gone up. But I think that if they can nab people right along with the sticker shock and they've got that sense of urgency to buy now, it's like, okay, 130, but oh, that's a little much. I buy it now, it's gonna sell out.
Mm.
Then
Yeah,
they
I
could
mean, the
probably
demand
sell
was
it a lot
there, I
more.
thought, and I saw several people. I kept checking to see if anyone got tickets, and other people, whether it was the Kings Island Facebook group, our own Tower Top execs, people were saying it says the
Mhm.
products aren't available. You
Yeah.
got to be ready. When you put something on sale like that, you got to be ready. It's like with if coaster stock tickets were going on sale, everybody's ready to go. You can't have it, be it 20, 30 minutes later, maybe the product's now ready. You got to go when the time says it's ready to go.
Well, and I also think that part of it is what I was mentioning before. When there's that urgency, I mean, when it's the urgency, okay, with coaster stock, it sells out in like 10 minutes. I bet you could put a price of 150, $200 on it and it would still sell out because people will be so laser focused on I have to buy this now. They'd rather risk regrets than regret not getting the tickets. But
Right.
now I don't think you have that anymore because they've been on sale for over like well over a week and they're still not sold out. So I think that
That was kind of like igloos because there was, a time a couple years ago, 3, 4 years ago, that, every year when they went on sale, you better get one quick or you weren't going to get one. And that was every night throughout Winterfest. And now this year, I mean, New Year's Eve went quick, but the other
because you
nights,
yeah.
they were still available for the most part.
Yeah, that is kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. I mean, it's like, ugh.
But no, New Year's Eve, place to be, Kings Island.
Absolutely. Yep, and, we'll probably be there, and, say hi if you see us. Alright.
Always say hi if you see us.
Always say hi with you see us, but especially on New Year's Eve. I'm gonna try to wear this so people can recognize me. Okay. Um, we'll be right back with your stories. Okay. Today's story, Leslie E. from Loveland, Ohio. So Leslie says, in the summer of 1982, I was 18 years old and working at Kings Island as an usher for the park's live shows. It was a fun job. One day I was given an assignment. I didn't fully grasp the importance of all the time. I didn't fully grasp the importance of at the time. Ushering the first ever concert at Timberwolf, Air Supply. I knew their songs, of course. How could anyone in the 80s not? But at 18, I didn't think much about the significance of the event. To me, it was just another shift, albeit a cool one. I found myself standing near the back, quietly watching the crowd. The moment the first chords of Lost in Love filled the air, the audience erupted, and I realized this was something special. The energy and the connection between the band and the fans was electric. It wasn't just a concert, it was a history. It was history being made, though I didn't fully appreciate it then. Now, looking back, I'm proud to say I was there. I was part of that night, that moment when Timberwolf Amphitheater came to life for the first time. I tell my kids about it sometimes, mentioning how I ushered Air Supply's inaugural concert. they usually just roll their eyes and mumble, "That's cool, mom," clearly not grasping how big it felt to me now. But for me, it's more than just a story. It's a memory I cherish. Timberwolf would go on to host countless legendary performances, but there's something special about saying I was there for the first one. Yeah. What's funny is I'm not familiar with Air Supply like at all, but I can tell you that was the first concert at Kings Island because that's part of
Yeah,
history.
I was there. I was there center stage, row 10. Maybe Leslie scanned my ticket going through. I don't know the turnstile, but yeah, I mean it's memorable. Even if I hadn't gone to that first concert, just knowing who Air Supply is, I would have recognized that as part of Kings Island's history. And there were so many great acts that have played at Timberwolf over the years. Uh, the 1980s were the glory years, for Timberwolf, and it's just kind of sad to see that sitting vacant, for the majority of the summer. Occasionally, they'll have something in there, but it's a great venue, and I really wish there was a way for it to become more a part of the Kings Island experience. Carowinds this year did, concerts in the park kind of a
Mm.
thing. It was included with your park admission. You just, went in if you wanted to watch the concert, and they had some pretty notable acts that came in. So maybe something like that. I know they had a lot of success at Carowinds with it. Different market, of course, but I'd like to see it being used. And again, for me, there's a lot of memories there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's I I have very little history with Timberwolf. I my first memory of Timberwolf was I saw like a bird show there on a field trip. So that was when I could say that I actually went into a Timberwolf. I saw Weird Al there the last time he performed there, which was the last like true concert. I know they had like the Sean Hannity Freedom Tour, but I don't think they
Yeah,
had like a normal like one band plays kind of concert until
yeah. I took Weird Al on Son of Beast when he did that concert.
ooh, you must not like Weird Al. But I went to about half the concerts at Timberwolf in 2022 when they did them, and some of them were like people I'd never heard of, and some of them are people I had heard of, and um, I would love to have that back. I think the energy and Action Zone and all around the park is just incredibly special when they have concerts there. They don't even do the Christian festival anymore.
No, no, they haven't for a couple years, and maybe that's something that does come back in 2025. We've not seen any events or anything that they're going to have for the next season, which is really now just 4.5 months off.
Right. Well, and they you don't even have an opening day or how bad the calendar is going to be, for next season.
No, we have none of that stuff yet.
Right. Well, we appreciate the story, and if you want to submit
Mm.
your story for us to read live on the air, just like Leslie's story, then send Don an email at donhelbig at themeparksbydon.com and use the subject "Story for TT." We'd love to hear your stories. What makes Kings Island special for you? Do you have a funny anecdote? Is there a story that kind of sticks out to you? We'd love to hear your stories and leave them on and read them on the air. Cool. Uh, we'll be right back with the listener questions. All right. First listener question. This is from Eddie P from Brantnell, Ohio. He said, which is rarer, a photograph of Houdini locking his keys in his car or a snapshot of the bald guy with the goatee who works at Kings Island riding Diamondback in the morning? Do you
Ryan, I've seen, there's a photograph that I've seen of Houdini locking his cars or his keys in his car, on the internet. So that's surfaced out there. So I'd have to go with the rarer of the two, being the bald guy with the goatee, works at Kings Island riding Diamondback in the morning.
I'm sure he loves to though. Yeah, it's well, Houdini came just right at the kind of like the advent of cameras. That's why there's photos of him, but not like a ton of photos of him.
Right,
And he
right.
probably wouldn't particularly like. I don't think anybody would particularly appreciate a picture of them trying like fumbling to get into their car with the keys locked in the car. But um, the Houdini thing is interesting. Do you know a lot about Houdini?
Just that he was a magician,
He was an illusionist, not a magician.
illusionist. Okay.
But so Houdini was a better marketer than he was an illusionist, an escape artist, shall we say? Because he was so he he was very good at what he did. Like, there's no denying that. But also, he would go to town before an event. Like, he would, let's say he came to Cincinnati, and I think he did come to Cincinnati. And if he was going to play, like, what would have been around back then, like Taft Theater or something, if he was going to do 4 nights at Taft Theater, he would show up the week before, and he would get himself hung from a crane in front of like City Hall or Music Hall or something like that, like a very public area, and do his like straight jacket escape while hung upside down for all the newspapers to be there and all that stuff. Uh, but so he did that, and that a lot of that was skill. Like, getting out of a straight jacket isn't really rigged, from what I understand. Like, when people put you in it, even the best people to put you in can't keep you in it if you know how to get out of it. But also, they would have these things where they, I think I learned this on Pawn Stars, but uh, they would be like a wooden chest that they would walk into a hardware store in front of a crowd and buy, unbeknownst to the owner, and then they'd lock him in it with a bunch of locks and then put a curtain up, and then he'd be out of it. Well, as it turns out, his people would break into the hardware store and replace all the screws in the back of the thing with, like, really shallow screws so he can just kick the back out. So even the owner can, like, swear on a Bible. He's like, That's not rigged. I didn't know he was gonna buy that one. He just randomly picked one." But, it was all gimmicked from the beginning. So, yeah, Houdini's cool.
Yeah, a lot of those, you know, people like that, Houdini, the Knievels, they didn't have marketing people. They were their own, promotional, people, and a lot of them, knew how to put on a good show to drum up the interest, get the buzz going on all that before they performed, doing whatever they did.
Yeah. Alright, why don't you read the next question?
Next one comes from Tom P. He's from Columbus, Ohio, and he says, "Is Ohio the best state for roller coasters?" That's a great question.
It's gotta be. I mean, there are 3 states that come to mind: Ohio, Pennsylvania, and California. And, Ohio, between Kings Island and Cedar Point, really smokes the other ones, I think.
Well, it depends on what you're looking for. Is it the number of roller coasters? Is it, you know, um,
The
the
variety?
types of roller coasters? Yeah, I mean the types and everything. I would give Ohio because they've got what are recognized as some of the top roller coasters, versus steel versus wood. At Kings Island, you've got the Beast, you've got Mystic Timbers. For steel, you got Diamondback, you got Orion, you got Banshee. Uh, Look at Cedar Point, Millennium Force, Steel Vengeance, Raptor, Magnum, Maverick. I mean, so I think I would give the edge to Ohio, but I think Pennsylvania's, right there. You've got Kennywood, Knoebels, Hershey Park. You've got Waldermere. I mean, you've got a lot of really good coasters in the state of Pennsylvania too.
Yeah, but my thing against Pennsylvania is it's got a lot of good old wooden coasters, but it doesn't have the variety that Ohio does. And then
Right, Ohio's got the better variety.
Cedar Point has, or not Cedar Point, Ohio has the variety, and then California has, just from landmass alone, you've got Magic Mountain, which kind of in and itself can kind of compete with the other states, plus Discovery Kingdom, and for now, Great America and stuff. So just as a result of
Knott's.
landmass, it gets up. You have Knott's Berry Farm, you know. So yeah,
Yeah, victory for Ohio.
Yeah.
Next question,
Next
Ryan.
listener question, David J from Cincinnati, Ohio. He says, "Do you think Bill Mefford belongs in the Kings Island Hall of Fame, and what's your take on why he isn't?"
I think absolutely Bill Mefford belongs in the Kings Island Hall of Fame. Got to know Bill pretty well in the 1980s. Um, he was involved in a lot of firsts that Kings Island did. The first Winterfest, he was integral in what that event was going to be. There was a lot of nobody was doing that. Those winter events. So there was a lot of risk. About doing this. It was kind of built as a gift, back to the city and everything. They weren't looking to make necessarily money with it, but just being involved with the first Winterfest, other things he was involved with, some of the big names. We talked about Timberwolf earlier. He was involved in helping get some of those concerts there. Went on to have just a great career. He was one of the first hires at Universal Orlando. We'll have him on sometime to talk about that. But there's just a lot of things, when you look at the people, no disrespect to the people that are already in the Kings Island Hall of Fame, but, uh, if you look at the names in there, Bill Mefford doesn't take a backseat to many of them. So I think he certainly belongs in there. Now, why isn't Bill in there? I think as the years go by, there's fewer people at Kings Island know who Bill Mefford was. And I think that plays a big role in why he's not in.
Right, and that was always my fear when it started because fortunately, the inaugural class was what Gary Walks, Dennis Spiegel, what's her name from all the Scream movie or all the teens,
Carmen
Carmen
Electra,
Electra, yeah, and that was like
who had the shortest Kings Island career of all of them.
that's true, um, but my fear is that they don't know who he is nowadays because like not a lot of people there that would be involved in these kind of decisions know anything before like 2016, it's like
Yeah,
so
yeah, right. The history of the park, and who some of the people were that made Kings Island, what it is today. They have no idea, who those who those people are and who belongs in there. And there's really, I don't, with all the retirements and other people moving on to other things, there's not really anybody left at Kings Island that um, you know can make a connection, and knows who these people were and saw them do their things. And there's people that are retired. I think they should put a board together, the Hall of Fame board, and bring back these people that who worked there for. I'm talking about like the Sam Hills, the Doug Kramers, those kind of people, and let them have a say, who's in there. Um, but right now you've got people, they might have worked at Kings Island for 2 or 3 years, having a say in who's in the Hall of Fame.
right.
And I think that's why Bill's not in there. I mean, there's so many other people that should be in there. How was Al Collins and Jeff Gramke, designers of arguably the greatest wooden roller coaster ever built? How are those two not in the Kings Island Hall of Fame?
I completely agree, but also like some of the criteria is kind of shaky too, but it has been from the beginning because it's a Hall of Fame intended for people that made impacts on Kings Island or people that went on to make impacts. Because Carmen Electra worked there for like 5 minutes and quit, broke a contract. She's in the Hall of Fame. So none of her contributions have anything to do with Kings Island. They all have to do with Prince. That he was the one who discovered her. Um, Same with are the Lachey's in it yet?
No,
Yeah, you need to get those people in it before they die. But it's
no, but I mean, there's people. I mean, there's. I think when you look at it, it can be any of those kind of things. Did you get your start at Kings Island and then you made an impact later on, on different things? Rob Podorf, worked on and off again, 10 years or so at Kings Island. Was involved with Paramount Parks, wrote a lot of the shows. He does a lot of things now. Disney. I mean, other things. Very successful as a composer, one of the most sought after, composers out there.
right.
So, a guy like that, yeah, he belongs in the Kings Island Hall of Fame. But
Sure.
I mentioned Al Collins, Jeff Gramke, um, Carter Calvert got her start working in shows at Kings Island. Uh, she's gone on to, a great career, Broadway, voiceover stuff, still performing today. I mean, she belongs in the Kings Island Hall of Fame. There's just so many people
So
that
yeah,
are going to get overlooked because nobody knows who they are and
and
what their connection to Kings Island
well,
was.
what they're gonna do is they're gonna aim for the stars because they only know the people that have been in the, Inquirer article about these celebrities worked at Kings Island, and they're gonna try to get Woody Harrelson, who doesn't want anything to do with it, and then they're gonna be like, "I guess we just won't do that." To me, though, I would say the criteria should be the one that I'm okay with. Not that I'm the decision maker is. So you've got your Doug Kramers, your Al Collins, your Bill Maverick, people like that should be in there. That goes without saying. But if you want to go for people that made something of themselves afterward, I would try to lean towards people that did what they did at Kings Island and then went on to be great at what they did at Kings Island. So, when we talk about Alton Fitzgerald White and stuff, like I'm totally cool with him because he was a performer at Kings Island, went on to be Mustafa at, on Broadway for Disney. I'm cool with that because it feels like he got his start at Kings Island. But when we talk about like Woody Harrelson, who worked in a wood carving shop for a couple months and then went on to be an actor, like Kings Island had nothing to do with that. I mean, you can twist the narrative of, he was inspired to be an actor, but we know that's not true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be like Dan Patrick. He worked on the train as an actor, and they had those in the early '70s. And he went on to fame with ESPN, and now has the Dan Patrick Show. I mean, he's a guy that someone based on the criteria and who's in it. He certainly belongs in the Hall of Fame based on what others were put in there for. We're talking about Carmen Electra again here. But yeah, I think to me, I think they need to move back a little bit more. And what you did at Kings Island should really matter a
Mhm.
little bit in that. I mentioned Carter Calvert. She was a performer in the shows there for a couple years, and it's gone on to a great career. So I would say, she certainly should be in there. And when you talk about Kings Island history, the Beast is, you know, it's still today. 45 years later, it's that big drawing card for them. Gets people from all over the world to come to the park specifically to ride that. And the two guys that had a hand in that designing it, Al Collins and Jeff Grampe, they're not in.
Yeah.
So I think they need to really look at what that is and how they do it. And it's kind of kept a secret right now. It's in the hallway of the HR building. The guests can't see it and read about it, and there's nothing on the website that points to it and talks about it. So there's not really a lot of awareness to it either. So it never really. Uh, when we were first starting that, Jerry Niederhelman was the director of operations, and myself and Matt Schaefer, the marketing director. When we first talked about doing this and moved forward with it, what it is today and what our thoughts were for that, being out on display for the guests to see, that hasn't happened. So it's definitely, changed hands and who was involved with it in the last, several years. So it's kind of moved away from what the real purpose of it was.
Yeah, and, it's funny because they put a lot of money and resources into what they did with it, because originally, remember they put the hands, like, Carmen Electra put her hands in the thing,
Mhm.
and they put those in Tower Gardens, so it seemed like Tower Gardens was gonna be that, and then they moved it over to next to the Kings Island Theater, and it looked like it was the year they put Ruth Voss in, and Ruth Voss was one of the few people that was posthumously entered, and then they moved
Right.
the thing there to look like a mausoleum. I always thought that was, like, dark humor, but, the, I'm excited that at least some people got exposed to it. I'm sure that, like, at the 50th celebration when Alton Fitzgerald White was inducted, most people are like, "Oh, Kings Island Hall of Fame, I didn't know they did that." But at least there were some
Yeah.
people that were exposed to it, you know?
Right.
But I think that he was a worthy he's performing at Epcot, by the way. We'll talk about that in a future show. But, but he was a performer at Kings Island. And then he went on to be a performer on Broadway. Like, I think that meets the criteria. I think, Gramke's a perfect example because if anything, he was there forever. He had his hands in a million projects. I'm not saying
Yeah, he was there before the park opened, 1971. He was one of the people from Coney Island that went up, to help build the park.
right. And, and then, like, I know that, like, Greg Scheid was inducted. And yeah, I think that almost any GM would probably fit. I mean, obviously, if it's a bad GM, that would probably be a bad idea, but any GM would fit the criteria because they have their hands so much in molding what the park looks like for whatever their tenure is, that I'm okay with any GM getting in, or at least any GM being considered, you know. All right. I think I'm reading the next one.
No, I do.
Oh, you read the next one. Okay.
Yes,
Do
it
it.
is from Evelyn S., Reading, Ohio. She says, "What's a Kings Island ride that is simply not talked about enough?"
The bat.
The Bat, that's good. I think Adventure Express.
I knew you were going to say that, and I think that's true as well.
I think those two rides would be foremost on my mind of rides that just don't get talked about enough, especially at night. They're both great night rides too.
They really are. I Adventure Express feels like it gets the ridership that it should because it's people kind of know where it is. But the Bat, I feel like doesn't, and I think it's not a referendum on the ride. I think it's in a terrible spot that's hard to find. But that's neither here
Yeah,
nor there, really.
right.
Okay. Next question. Greg C. from Alexandria, Kentucky. What's the one thing you never leave home without? Capital One.
Never leave home without. Hold on one second here. Let's see. Let's pull out the wallet here. Um,
While you're doing that.
okay.
Well, I'll go and
I never leave home without a Ruth Voss business card that I was given in 1981 when I first met her. So this
okay.
was given to me the day that I met her. I was riding the racer, and she was back there with a film crew. They were doing one of those like Thursday Child type episodes, and the ride crew pointed her out to me, or pointed me out to her. I mean, and she asked if I, you know, would be available to meet her for lunch, and I said, sure. And she said, where would you like to go? She said, international restaurant. And I said, no, how about the lunch basket? Because that's where I ate most of my meals and that. So we ate at the lunch basket. But I keep that with me at all times because she is a connection. Every time I look at it, it's a connection to, what I did. My start at Kings Island, really, how I got into that industry was riding the racer into things that, evolved from that, you know, all coming from Ruth. She was very influential in my career path to get into public relations. I had no idea, that those kind of positions existed or anything. My thing, I was focused, razor focused on becoming a sports broadcaster. That's all I thought about, was just, I knew I wasn't going to play. So the next best thing was calling the games. So that's what I, aspired to be. But the more I was around Ruth, the more I started thinking that that's not a bad thing. The more I thought working in the theme park industry would not be a bad thing. And, being able to tell the park stories was something that intrigued me. I loved the way she did it. So many lessons learned from her. She, would take the time, to give me all these tips and different things. If I was going to do that, what to do. I mean, best education I could have had was those years I was riding the racer and Ruth was the PR manager at the park. So I mean, it paid off, and where I went on to, what I went on to do, I did PR and eventually broadcasting and professional hockey. Did that for 18 years before Kings Island, but
Mhm.
none of that happens. None of that happens without Ruth Voss because when you start out in professional sports, you don't start at the top. So in order to be a broadcaster, you had to justify your existence to the organization. So you either had to be, sell tickets, sell sponsorships, sell, arena sign something. You had to do something like program ads. You had to do something like that. So what I could offer was, PR. And that's how I kind of got into it. So I owe everything, to what I went on to be able to accomplish in my career, really to Ruth Voss. So I keep that card with me at all times.
That's nice. I don't carry stuff with me too much. I'd say mine is probably cell phone, but when we talk about sentimental things, this is kind of a callback to Bill Mefford because there's a couple things that he gave me that I always like. It makes me think of him. Um, One of which is a animation cell of the Smurfs that's signed by Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera. Is that their right first names? I'm assuming so. I'll show that on the show at some point. Maybe it'll be members content or something. But he gave that to me, which I thought was really nice, and I've still got that. Another thing he gave me is a Winterfest 2005 coat, which I always see it and want to bust it out, but it's so warm that if it's below like if it's above like 25 degrees, you're just sweating so bad in that thing. It's like those really thick North Face coats, but I can't say I don't leave the house without those things, but if you're going to go that direction, I guess I got to too. Um
Yeah, I mean, I
my
carry that
phone and
around
my
with me. I mean, yeah, if you see me in the park and say, "Show me your Ruth Voss business card," I've got it. I mean, it's with me, unless I leave my wallet in the car. But I mean, it's with me.
yeah, I don't even carry a wallet on me. Um Cool. Great question. Let's talk about Tower Topics t-shirts, Don.
Tower Topics t-shirts. They are available for just $22. That includes shipping. They come in a Carolina blue. Just let us know what size you need, and we'll send you the QR code. And once the transaction goes through, it only takes a matter of days to get your shirt. Now, there's different ways that we can send you the QR code. You can send us a direct message on our X. We certainly hope you follow us there, which is Tower_Topics. Or you can drop me an email, as most of you have been doing, which is Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com.
Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com. Okay.
Yes, I almost said my old Kings Island address, but yeah, it's Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com.
And his office number is 513-754. Okay. Hey,
I don't remember my office number. I don't. I don't know.
I
It's
think I
five
still have it.
seven. I think five. Yeah, I know what it was now. I can remember now.
I wonder if I because I've still
You know, 75457, then two other numbers. I don't want to give that out
okay,
because
I don't say the other 2 numbers
someone
out there,
else will
but yeah,
have
you're
that
right.
number right now. So I don't want to give that out and have people calling it and doing that kind of thing.
Okay. Awesome. Hey, I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig. This is Tower Topics.